we've been based in Alberta since 2019. So Alberta has always had a willingness to work with the space and allow players to come in. When we went looking for a framework to register Tetra Trust, we went around many provinces and there was very little appetite to either register us as a provincial trust company, or some of the provinces like Ontario no longer have the legislation framework to be able to issue provincial trust licenses. Everything's done at the federal level. So Alberta, I would say, has been at the forefront of this technology for quite a few years, and they continue to want to work with innovators. They have a sandbox that's being, heavily utilized. I would say BC, Quebec are also, pretty forward thinking in their capacity to regulate the space, and some of the players are based out of there. Ontario, though, has a good amount of the market share when it comes to registered platforms. Makes a lot of sense because this is where the market is to some degree on financial services. And right now, I would say there's some regulators that are pretty proactive and innovative, and then there are some that are, continue to think that Web3 is just a trend and it's not going to stick, and we need to overly regulate and extend beyond our mandate, and that's unfortunate, but we do believe that will change.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've been hearing the same things, and it does seem to be very fractured between the different groups. And I guess being in Alberta, maybe is that how it helped you to kind of raise this year for stablecoins and kind of get those banking relationships?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. The willingness from the Alberta government, again, to work with us as a player, but also the industry in the space. There was a good amount of engagement that we did with Premier Smith and her ministers. Minister Glubish is a great example of an innovator, forward thinker, and there's definitely a good amount of appetite there. And also companies that invested in Tetra recognize the power of the Alberta framework. I would say it's probably also not a coincidence that we have one of the institutions in Alberta that's backing us, and that National Bank also just completed a Canadian Western Bank acquisition and established a fairly big footprint on the Alberta market. Alberta has been trying to grow its technology pockets for quite a few years, right? Create a lot of incentive. When you look at the cost of real estate and lifestyle in cities like Montreal and Toronto, I mean, Calgary is very competitive for young talent. So there's a lot of really promising aspects coming out of Alberta. Ultimately, Canada, the regulatory regime is heavily fragmented, right? And we need alignment. If we're going to create competitive global products, we can't try to satisfy 12 securities regulators, right? That all have a slightly different view on a product, plus SROs or self-regulating organizations, plus federal regulatory bodies. I mean, I think the count is in the 20s amount of regulators you might want to satisfy depending on where you operate in Canada and financial services. That's just not competitive. And, I think that's something that our current federal government should take a hard look at.
Yeah, it's definitely going to affect the ability to innovate, I would say.
Yeah.
I just recall reading from the investment round of who you've raised from, and thought maybe you could, as a founder, maybe speak to what it's like trying to raise from Shopify and Wealthsimple. Those are some pretty big, I would just call them corporate venture tickets to get.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any hair anymore. So, but all kidding aside, we were talking earlier about, fundraising and generally how the market has evolved. I've been fundraising since 2022, and I would say even those, few years have changed a lot of what you need to do to be able to land a Wealthsimple or Shopify or, first you need to demonstrate you need to first build relationships with those investors, and that can come in various ways. But having a relationship that's built through either a common vision on products or innovation or through market segments, I think is gets you there a lot quicker. Then it's the quality of your information that you have internally and the people they can face, because it's great if Wealthsimple comes and interacts with Didier, but at the end of the day, they also want to evaluate the type of talent you have within your organization.